Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 95. We're a podcast that talks about pop culture things, and sometimes there's whiskey. My name is John, and I am joined, as always, by Andrea
Hey, everybody.
and returning guest, Dustin. Welcome.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
You bet. So we're going to be talking about the Uncharted movie later in the episode. We'll be talking spoilers about that. So hopefully you've seen it. If not, you'll have to tune out then, I'm afraid. But before that, we've got all kinds of non-spoilery content and news to cover.
hmm
And I think there's some drink holidays this week. Last week there was
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, there was quite the scarcity last week. We sort of stretched it with being like, oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday and it's Galentine's Day and Valentine's Day. But this week, we've got a couple different ones. If you're a wine lover, you can raise a glass, as I am doing, to National Drink Wine Day, which was 2 days ago, the 18th. Um, Today, the 20th, it is National Beer Day. Glad I got that out. And tomorrow, February 21st, it is World Kombucha Day, which I believe Dustin is celebrating, you smart man.
Blur
Uh,
out the logo and then
no product placement.
Yeah. Yeah.
What an
Just
accommodating guest comes on and celebrates one of our drink holidays. Cheers.
yeah,
cheers.
perfect. I am not celebrating a drink holiday, unfortunately, but I'll cheers nonetheless.
John.
Well,
Um,
I do also have a beer to celebrate the beer day.
oh, nice.
Oh, see, look it. We're all covered. So, John, you're excused. You're not excused from
I'm
telling us
fitting.
what is in your drink.
Okay, it's
Are
I'm
you
actually
fitting
making.
to what our topic is? Because then you're also excused.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm having the first named cocktail that apparently bartender Nathan Drake made
Ah.
for a guest. So I have a Negroni
All right. All
in my
right.
glass. So, yes.
Nice.
All right. I'll allow it.
All right, thank you. Well, perfect. Well, let's see what we've been up to. Andrea, how's your week been? We're a little bit shifted here in terms of schedule.
True. True
We
enough.
made the Uncharted movie happen, so
Yes.
now we're to Sunday. How's it been?
Yeah. It's been good. It's been busy. There have been a couple of new things that I've watched that have dropped this week. Um, Ali Wong dropped her third Netflix special. And so I watched that because I love her and I love her stand up comedy. And it was not a disappointment,
Okay.
especially if you're, I don't know, if you're kind of a married with kids type. She's very like, let me tell you some truths about what it's like to be married and have kids, especially as a stay at home mom, which I can't quite relate to that, but it's all kind of generally there. So
Well, you are a mom and you're home a lot,
it
so
is true. It is
I mean,
true. And I have been home taking care of my child, learning all about the fun days of my child is sick. Let me stay at home and care for them also while paying
yep.
daycare fees. So, oh, the joy.
Ah,
Oh
But
yes.
yeah, I mean, her comedy definitely applies more broadly than that. But I think there's a certain resonance there. So, it was a good Netflix special.
cool.
And then also kind of slipped in under the radar, for especially for being such a kind of lauded and awarded show. But season 4 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel dropped on Amazon Prime on Friday. And that's a show that I love, so I was definitely on Friday one of the first people to get in episode 1 of season 4. And they'll be dropping continuous episodes every Friday. And season 4 also not a disappointment. Great way to start. Kind of took me a minute to catch back up to where everything was, but they did a good job recapping for the audience and bringing us up to speed. So,
Okay, I didn't know you watched that show. Yeah,
yeah.
I heard about it a long time ago. I've never watched it, but yeah, I've just always heard good things.
Yeah, I've really loved it. I'm normally not one to jump on the bandwagon, and I hate watching in general. I hate watching like shows that are super popular because it's just like, ugh. Everybody's just like,
I'm
oh my
gonna I'm
God,
gonna
it's
start a
so
counter. I'm
much.
gonna start a. We can do it for each other. We can start like checking off hash marks to keep track of how many times
We say
you've
certain
reminded
things.
everyone. Yes,
Yep.
that.
I know. I know. I know. I feel like saying that, and I like a balance in my shows. So I like some
Yep.
comedy and I like
Okay.
some serious.
Yep.
That's kind
Perfect.
of like my my phrases now, my trademarks.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I made an exception for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because I thought the premise, sounded really interesting, and I was not disappointed. But like I said, I was kind of surprised that season 4 dropped without much fanfare. So I'm not sure if Amazon just has a lot of other marketing money tied up in obviously things we're going to talk about like Lord of the Rings and
Mhm.
Wheel of Time. If they're maybe not as confident in season 4, or maybe they are super confident that they're like, no, our audience knows, we've got an idea of our fan base and they're gonna follow it. So,
Could
um,
be.
yeah,
I feel
not
like
really
there's never been
sure.
a lot of fanfare around it. I only, I hear about it here and there, but I don't see it out and about much. Like
Yeah,
they put it on the homepage, and that's it. Like, have you
yeah,
heard of
this.
this show, Dustin?
Yeah, I've watched, I think, all of season 1,
Mhm.
and I just forgot to pick up on season 2 and all that. But I almost feel like the fact that I watched season 1 is why I get ads for it too. So I'm not sure. Like I
Right.
heard that it was coming out with season 4, and
Mhm.
it's a very well written show, and I really like the main cast. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll have to add
Yeah,
it to the list.
I feel like
Just
around season 2 they were very like invested just because it was winning a lot of awards, and they were, just very like, oh, like we're gonna hype this show. But now with Amazon's diversification, I feel that they're kind of, you know, choosing where to spend their marketing money. And right now I think that's
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings
mhm.
to no
Sure.
one's surprise. So, but anyway, I watched the first episode. Highly recommend that show if you haven't watched it. Other things I watched, kind of very random all around the board. I watched on Netflix The Tinder Swindler. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I
I heard it's doing well.
it is. It's fascinating. It is a really well told story, like very concise. Everything's very easy to follow. It's interesting. It grips you right from the beginning, just like kind of figuring out what's going on and like how this sort of thing could happen. And I will not give away the ending, but the ending is an absolute like slap to the face. Like, what? Like, I felt like the story was proceeding along, a very expected route. I was following everything and we were getting to like the big finish. And then out of nowhere, wham, like the ending
Okay.
just punched me in the gut. So,
Okay.
Is
yeah,
this like a true crime
it
thing, or
is.
is it okay?
Yes. So it's
Perfect.
it's following these couple of women who were taken in by a guy on Tinder who is like, "Oh, I'm like
Taken in by?
taken in by." Yeah, they believed he built this like lie of a life that he had, and they were sort of taken in by the story, and he
Oh,
made it
okay.
seem like this is
It's
my
like, "Come, my
life.
children, I shall take care of
Yeah.
you." It's like Tinder is changed since I heard about it.
Yep. It's where, fanatics meet their cult leaders now. Come,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
children.
Huh. Huh.
They're just in the
I
business of
might look at this app
relationships,
then.
you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, no, he builds up that, he's this billionaire's son. He's in like the diamond industry. He's got all this money, lives this crazy cool life, and like takes them on amazing first dates, and then kind of hooks them in and like, oh, I'm, like this really amazing person and I'm a great boyfriend. And then, something goes sideways and, oh, I need to borrow some money really quick. Like, you know, we're in love.
Oh,
It's okay. Like, and then suddenly it
Ooh.
just
I mean,
becomes like,
that's a
oh,
bad sign.
yeah. I mean, I I totally get where it starts. It doesn't like his first request seems so reasonable, and then
Mhm.
Sure.
suddenly it just accelerates and you're like, I don't know how you're in this point and not feeling red flags and not feeling like I wouldn't do this, but I don't know, the way they tell it, it just follows so logically,
Sure.
and he's so good at like preying on emotions that I'm like, I see how you could in this situation,
Sure.
but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
excellent. If you're a fan of true crime, it's a
You've
good story.
convinced me.
It's so good. I really enjoyed it. And the fact that they're talking to these women who it's like, yeah, I'm not ashamed. Like I'm gonna put my story out there. This is what happened to me. And they have all these like video recordings and voice messages and messages on like WhatsApp. It's just like, oh my God, you're in it. It's insanely interesting.
Yeah, and that does sound kind of fun.
Yeah. And
Up
I mean
Ashley's alley for sure.
it's not too long, which I think is nice. It's not like this 3-hour thing, or it's not like, 8 1-hour specials.
Right.
They're like, nope, it's pretty like neat and concise. So, yeah.
It's easy to judge victims of that kind of thing. It's like, God, I can't believe it. But, it happens over and over. So I think
It
it's just
does.
not, people know how to prey upon, someone that's in a weak state,
Right.
going through something tough or whatever. And
Hmm.
Well,
yeah.
and his strategy wasn't always the same.
Mm.
Sometimes it was like, he was pretending to be somebody's boyfriend, and they were like, "Oh, we're falling in love, and we're looking for houses together and all that kind of thing." And then with one woman, she was talking about how they met and they sort of were trying to form a relationship, and they were both just like, "Nah, it's not working romantically," but they became super close friends. And so, like, even the fact that he was just, like,
Mm.
cultivating this, like, really deep friendship, he was like,
Hmm.
I don't have to force the romantic thing. Like, I can get it this way too.
Right.
He just was, like, super adaptable and very clever, which
Huh,
you hate to
interesting.
admit about somebody like that, but yeah,
Well, yeah.
well played
Yeah.
game, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was really good. And then as we talked about last episode with, kind of all of the Marvel Netflix shows leaving the platform, I did restart and get back into Luke Cage because I really want to get all that finished before everything leaves in case
Okay.
it doesn't go somewhere, although perhaps it will.
Yeah, I was listening to there's a big movement Save Daredevil that
Oh, good.
was yeah, and so there's a group of women that basically started this, and they
Mhm.
still do a podcast on a semi regular basis or whatever
Sure.
for it, and they seem to think per the agreement signed, there's no reason that these shows can't come to another platform.
Okay. That's
Marvel
promising.
owns them, Netflix made them. Like, it's just, so, yeah, I don't know how if that'll be immediate, but it seems to me that, they'll put it somewhere, I would think.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's excellent content. Um I've loved most everything I've been watching. Luke Cage, I'm a little iffy on, but Daredevil and Jessica Jones are absolutely amazing. So
cool.
hopefully they can find a new home.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad to even think about the idea that something made with so much love and detail can
Mm,
just
vanish.
disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, you can get some of them physical copies, but it's kinda hard
Hmm.
because I think they distribute that, generally speaking, outside the United States, where people maybe don't have agreement with Netflix, or Netflix isn't in their country or whatever,
Right.
So, but, yeah, you can get Daredevil, I think on DVD, but
Mm.
I don't know about the others, so
Yeah, this is kind of the danger of streaming platforms here. You're running into something like this. I mean, everybody's kind of giving up their physical copies of things and being like, "Oh, it's on streaming, I can just go find it whenever I want to." Well, I mean, if you rely on that
yeah.
solely, stuff like this happens. You can't always just go back and it's not always going to be there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's just for those things that you really, really, really must have for all of your life. Like,
Mhm.
you're gonna be sad if they're gone,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of things. If it was gone, oh, that's too bad, but I was never gonna watch it or play it again anyways. Like, I'm 90% sure. But there are those things that you just maybe always come back to, and that's, yeah,
Mhm.
not a bad idea. Get that locked down physically.
Yeah.
Yep. Season 8 of Game of Thrones. just that season. I never want it to disappear.
Oh,
Yeah,
sold out.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Okay, nice. All right. Well, and you're
Well
still
done.
reading a
Well played,
Twilight book,
sir.
I see. Yeah.
uh, my Crossroads of Twilight
Oh,
from Wheel
yes.
of
Okay.
Time.
Mhm.
Not to
Mhm.
confuse our viewers. No Twilight over here.
Oh,
Um, yes, I am still. Oh my God, it's such a slog. I'm like so close. I know I need to finish it so I can finish this GD
It
series.
seems like you should just stop. Like, that's what it seems like. It
No,
seems like it's not worth it, Andrea.
no, this will be the third time I failed. I can't fail again, John.
Ashley's or you're gonna like, yeah. See, Ashley will power through anything, but it's usually if she doesn't like it, she's gonna quit. And if I feel like you're not liking this and you're still gonna power through it anyways, I don't
Yes.
know. I mean, you're gonna be 50 and you're still gonna be reading this series and shanking things in the first Borderlands. That's what's gonna be happening.
Okay, the second one might be true.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to finish this book. Because I have to get through this book because this has been the book to stop me both of the previous two times. I need to get through this book
Okay.
and I need to see if it gets better on the other side. If it doesn't, that would be the point when I would quit. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Okay. Right.
I need to see what's there on the
All
other
right.
shore.
Grass is always greener. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think our friend Wes once told me like with Smallville, yeah, if you
Mm.
just watch like get to the seventh season and then it gets really good. What? It's all the torture for hours and hours. What
That's
do, what do you
7
think? I
seasons. My God.
Yeah, I don't even know how many there are. That wasn't it like is
It's
it was
10.
towards the end. 10.
It's
Okay,
10.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's most of the series.
yeah.
Jesus.
So
I mean, I don't know. He's not wrong in the sense of like there's a lull in the middle, like 4 or 5 kind of thing.
okay.
And then it picks up again, but woof. I don't know. I wouldn't push myself through 7 seasons, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Dustin. How about you? How's your week been? What you been up
uh,
to? I guess we haven't talked to you in a little bit, so you can branch out further than that if you'd like.
Yeah.
oh, sure. Well, I recently turned 35, so
Woo! Happy
I can feel my
birthday.
body giving out on me. Yeah, I don't know. Been playing a little bit of Project Zomboid, as you know. That was very fun. I think might go back into that because now there's so many mods and so many interesting things to do with
Mm,
it. It's a very wide range of things you can do with that game, which is why it's so intriguing. Um, Played a little
did
bit
you
of.
ever manage to get that server set up right and stuff?
Oh man, that was my nightmare. No, I never could. It was
Okay.
so Shane and I tried like for like over an hour together to try and like troubleshoot what was going on, and for whatever reason Shane could do all the exact same steps and set it up and it would work, but then I would do that and it wouldn't work. So I don't know.
Hmm.
Either way, um started playing a little bit of Sifu pretty much right at the end of that.
Nice.
That is quite fun if anybody's into um good fighting games and somewhat roguelikes, then that game's premise is not just um, what do you call it? It's
Gimmick.
yeah, it's not a gimmick. It's there's something very interesting to how to play that. I don't really want to ruin it or get into depth of it
Mhm.
because I probably won't explain it in a way that makes any sense, but uh, it's worth checking out.
Well, I feel like people, I mean, know people that are interested know maybe they don't the premise around
Mhm.
the game, but yeah, I think it's pretty neat. I like that they had in mind, I guess, a specific kind of style of martial art they wanted to find, and so they got someone that embodied that well, and so I appreciate all the accuracy to the martial arts for it.
Mhm. Yeah, and
They
it's
did a little
super
short
smooth.
film for it too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they definitely did their research. I know that they made Absolver, I believe was the game before
Yeah.
this, which was also very combat and martial arts focused. So they definitely
Hmm.
like cut their teeth on
Learn from
that.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything in there now is like so smooth with how you go about it, and it's very well telegraphed that like when you're flowing and you figure out there's a guy gonna throw a bottle at me, and then all that
Hmm.
stuff. It's pretty fun. So I highly recommend that. And
Cool.
then beyond that, I've been watching Murderville on Netflix
Ooh,
with
how do you like that?
Will Arnett. Oh man, I love it. I love Will
Okay.
Arnett, and the premise just
Murderville.
fits so well with what I would enjoy seeing.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, I highly recommend that too because
Okay.
they've they've got pretty much like all of the people that you're used to seeing in like really weird comedies, like on Adult Swim and
Right.
whatever, like Children's Hospital and stuff like that. They'll have them come in and be the cast around everybody, and it's very well done. So
Okay.
I hope that that keeps going.
Good.
Um,
Uh,
other than that,
huh.
my
You
my
checking out
memories.
Murderville, John?
Yeah, based on, or it got, I guess Arnett got the idea from seeing the UK show Murder in Successville. Never heard of
Uh,
that. I hadn't heard of this one either. This is news to me.
I guess I should have
Um,
known. Every half of all the new shows are proven like hits in
In
the
the UK.
UK or
yeah.
something.
Well, it sounds like it's, like the way they phrase it in here is, um, Murderville is the brainchild of Arnett, who sparked to the premise of the UK series Murder in
Hmm.
Successville. So it's different. They just, the more the way I think it should be done. You're inspired by something, you want to make your
Mhm.
own kind of version of
Hmm.
that type of thing.
Sure.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and
so
with it being like an improv kind of thing, there's just no way for it to be identical. So
sure,
it's
cool. It'll
very
be
well
fun to
done.
watch a comedy. Yeah, nice. Well, that's a lot of stuff. Sounds like fun.
Oh yeah.
When are they gonna come with the some meaningful giant update to Valheim? I
I
wanna play
don't
that
know.
game again.
I know. I was just thinking
Kinda
like
missed that one.
Project Zomboid kind of reminded me of the fun that we had in Valheim, but
Mhm.
I think that's gonna be another one of those where like 3 years from now is when they'll finally have enough content to lure me back in.
Sure.
I
Yep.
know that they came out
And
with more stuff for like building and stuff like that, but I
okay.
don't know.
It'll be a game just that's in preview in perpetuity,
Yeah.
you know, different alpha and beta channels, yeah. Yep. Well, I basically watched anime this week. I got a few other things in, I guess. Um, we finished Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. So that's was just one season, and but there's the manga continues, so hopefully there'll be a season 2 of that, adapting more of the manga. Um, and I talked about a little bit on the like our anime show, but the Demon Slayer finale hit, and that was that was very good. But I wish they would have pushed the last 2 episodes together. It's one of those
Okay.
things where the penultimate episode is where all the craziness happens, and then you kind of have the wind down and the resolution in
Hmm.
the final episode.
Sure.
So that's nice, but it's not so nice to wait a week and then because then I'm like, well, what are you gonna do now in your final episode?
Right.
Um,
It's
but
too
either
down.
way, yeah,
Yeah.
right. But and then we did get a little more Daredevil in as well upon the announcement of it leaving Netflix. So
Yeah.
we're trying to watch more of that with my parents. Did you guys watch this? Well, Andrew, I know you did the Super Bowl. Dustin, did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did not.
Okay, all right.
I
Well,
heard that there was things happening. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Spoilers.
I really
I
did
was
not pay attention.
throwing. Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I mean it was a bummer for me because of the
Hmm.
result. But it was a pretty good game. I thought
It was a good
ultimately.
game. I guess spoilers if you haven't watched the Super Bowl. Um, I was disappointed that the Bengals didn't take it. I thought they fought hard all game, and I was kind of bummed that the Rams came back. It felt, I don't know. It didn't feel like they had the momentum that they were like gonna win the game. I don't know. I
Yeah,
really
it
wanted
didn't
it
have
for the
this like
Bengals.
big turnaround,
Yeah.
that yeah.
I was really disappointed that, they had scored and I thought Joe Burrow was going to get a chance to take it down and he never did. And I really wanted him to have that chance. And if they couldn't do it, then I would have been satisfied. But I just didn't really want the Super Bowl play to be decided on a defensive like
Okay.
move like that. I don't know.
Yep. Well, so sticking on the Super Bowl a little bit because this can lead into our first news topic here.
Yeah.
For one, um, what do you think of halftime show?
I loved it. It was like all my music, like the entire room of people I was watching with, we were all just like jamming, knew all the words to everything. Loved it. Loved it.
Nice.
And I appreciated its production value, but also, and it feels a little strange to say, but its simplicity in terms of
It
comparison
was
with,
toned down.
yeah, with like The
Mhm.
Weekend just was
Yep.
like and I loved his music and I loved his show, but it was so overproduced that I was like, I almost not really like getting your
Hmm.
music. I'm just like so dizzied by everything that's happening on my screen right now. I'm not really listening to you like I want to listen to you. So I just sort of appreciated the return to focus on the music, even though some cool things were happening.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty good halftime show too. A lot of stuff I hadn't listened to in a long time. So,
Hmm. Throwback for sure.
um, the other elements to the Super Bowl, traditionally, we've talked about this on the last episode or whatever. What are they going to have? What are they going to have for ads? What are going to be the big commercials? That kind of thing. We griped about why do they release the trailers that they're going to show during the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl
Yes.
to ruin the surprise. I don't understand that. But one of the trailers that apparently was at the Super Bowl, I missed it. If I maybe it was like right before it started or what, was the Doctor Strange trailer.
Yeah. Hmm. I
Was
don't
it was it
remember where it
right at the
fell.
beginning? Okay, because I was like, I didn't leave or anything. I don't know where I missed this, but
Yeah,
either way.
yeah, it must have been early on because I didn't leave either, but I remember seeing it. So,
Okay. All right. Well, the Doctor Strange trailer. What do we think of that?
have you
Dustin, you
seen
get a
it?
chance to
Yeah.
see it? Yeah.
I saw one, but that was weeks ago. So now I'm thinking that there must have been a second one that I didn't see, and I'm surprised I
Hmm.
haven't really. Usually that stuff pops up for me, and I check it out.
Sure.
So I think that I'm a little bit behind on that now.
The algorithm has failed you.
Yeah.
Was it? I
uh,
mean, just to like, I mean, I guess a little bit of spoilers, but I mean, was it a long trailer that you remember watching before? Did Scarlet Witch appear in it?
Yeah. Yep. So I'd seen it on YouTube, and then I think the next week I went to go see a movie, and it was at the during
okay.
that.
Okay. So yeah, not
Oh,
not the
is that
same one then.
is at the end of No Way
Yes.
Home?
Sure. Yeah.
So I saw that one.
Okay.
So you're telling me there's a
Yeah.
new one? Okay.
There's a new one. Yep. It's it looks pretty crazy to me. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm expecting
It's a
crazy.
lot.
Multiverse of Madness. It should be crazy, right?
I mean,
Did you?
it's in the title. It better be.
Yeah. Andrea, were you impressed by this trailer? Does it have you more excited or less excited, or you just
I'm not sure. I like the ambition in it. I like that they're embracing the weirdness of Doctor Strange and kind of stretching that and seeing, you know, I feel like they're testing the limits of what audiences are going to pay attention to and be interested in. Marvel's really kind of pushing like, okay, this isn't going to be, our traditional story about, the rise of a superhero and funny jokes, overcoming obstacles, like yay resolution. Um, Doctor Strange has always been a little bit different in that way, but now I really feel like they're running with it. And I like that
Okay.
element to it. Um, but I don't know that in terms of putting together a trailer and having like the kind of rise and fall of emotion and unexpected reveals and, really like, oh, look at this, the height of these moments and, things like that. I'm not really sure that the trailer did that. I'm
Okay.
not really sure it packed the punch that I would expect from a trailer, but that could just be
Okay.
me.
And I would say that I am all for that if they are saving that for the movie. If there's like those
Yeah,
moments where it's just like, I'm
I
glad
get
that
you.
they didn't even hint at that. Because, I mean, I'm kind of with Alan at this point where sometimes if I'm excited about a movie, I try not to watch too many trailers for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, that,
No, I used to like I'd watch more trailers than I watch movies. I would watch. I remember when it was kind of a big deal when when episode 1 trailer came out. It was one of the earlier ones where before, yeah, you just see this on TV or in a movie theater, and now it was being distributed online. You could go to like Apple's website and through via QuickTime or whatever, you could view this trailer,
Hmm.
and it was kind of the start of that. And so I remember, yeah, I tried to save every trailer that I could that I loved, and I watch them over and over. But yeah, as time
Hmm.
has gone on, I definitely watch fewer. I've watched more now, I guess, doing this show because I'm like, well, if I'm going to comment on them, I suppose I should see it. But
Mhm.
otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, now like for things like this that I have no idea what it's going to be about or if I'm going to be interested, then I'm all for checking it out and being like, okay, I would see that.
Yeah.
But other movies where it's just like I've already heard that it's coming out and I know I'm going to go see it at some point, then I want it to be that thing that really lets me experience it in the theater.
Hmm.
And the
Yep.
one thing that I will say about like Blade Runner 2049 is that trailer made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Even though I understood like, oh, it's a sequel to Blade Runner.
Right.
Mm,
And then when I went and saw that movie, I'm like, this is awesome. I'm glad that he didn't like go through the beats where you basically saw the first 2/3 of the movie and
Hmm.
hmm
so
It's always interesting what you put together, and then after you've seen the movie, you watch the trailer and like, wow, they had that in the trailer. How could they do that? That's give away so much, but
Yeah.
without any context or knowing what's happening, it just goes right by,
Hmm.
mhm.
Yeah,
But
for me, watching the trailer, I remember being hit by two very different beats in the trailer, both of them having to do with Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange approaching her and being like, Did Vision ever talk about, the multiverse?" And Wanda going, "He had his theories." And then there was like an immediate cutaway. And I was just like,
hmm,
okay, that was anticlimactic. Like, I already know the multiverse is here. And because it's in the title, what did this add for me? To like tease me into like, what are we going to discuss about the multiverse? So I just remember some of the moments for me felt like flat like that, where I was sort of expecting not maybe a big reveal, but just a little bit of something more than what did we talk about the multiverse?
okay,
Just something extra. And then the other moment that hit for me was right at the end of the trailer, where Scarlet Witch is like talking about, you break the rules and you're a hero. I break the rules and I'm a villain. Like, how is that fair? And I was just thinking, like, ooh, this is some good stuff to bring up, like perspective on who's heroes and who's villains. Like, it's a very fragile line in the Marvel verse, and I think in many different kinds of movies where we have heroes and anti-heroes. But
well, let me
it was
just
it was a kind
say
of a cool thing to bring up, just because,
it's
of course,
not
like if you've watched WandaVision, then
right.
there's a whole arc there that feels more impactful by her bringing that up. And if you've watched that,
But it's not the breaking the rules that is why someone's in trouble. You're in trouble because of the result of the rule breaking.
right? So
Like
then you're risking
Wanda
it all
breaks the
on
rules and
results.
yes. I
You know what
mean,
I mean?
that's
Like, so, but like that can change so much depending on somebody's viewpoint of like, do I like this or don't I?
well, what Wanda did, there's not a lot of wiggle room for oh, but it's okay. Like, no worries. These people just I want to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, I guess, but
But
like, it's pretty
in the
bad.
end, it is pretty bad. But also on the flip side, like not something that was irreversible, and she rectified that mistake, large as it was, in the end without massive like death.
And then still didn't learn her lesson in a way. It's like, well, I just gotta
Didn't she?
because she's still used that for another specific person. Now we can you can say, well, sure, this person deserves what is
Mm,
happening to this
I
person,
see. I see.
but it's just
Again, that's
now
a
done
matter
on
of
a small.
perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, see, that's that one has more. There's more leeway there. I think there's
Yeah.
more wiggle room, but
So I don't know.
yeah,
I thought it was like
it's
fun to
difficult to
bring
talk
up.
about without
Yeah,
saying
without
for sure, hey,
right.
WandaVision spoilers. So yeah,
Which, if you
but
haven't seen WandaVision, go see WandaVision because it's amazing and
Very
will
good.
also bring a lot of great context to Doctor Strange too.
right, yeah.
Did you guys end up watching the What If series?
I've watched
No,
some
I
of that, but I
didn't.
haven't finished it.
Oh,
Because I'm
oh,
watching it with Chris, and we always we're like several light years behind on everything because we have to
I
watch so slowly.
I highly recommend that, and I also
Yep.
feel like there might be a connection between some parts of that
Ooh,
to
sure,
this multiverse of madness.
sure.
Mhm.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense if they're exploring, you know, different things. Like, what if T'Challa was Star Lord, or what if
Hmm.
Peggy was Captain Carter? I don't think I'm giving any spoilers there, really. That's like
No,
the whole
That's an
that's
that's
ad.
the whole
The previews,
premise of
yeah,
the show.
yeah.
yeah.
And it's not like canon
The
or anything. So yeah,
Yeah, it's I think the art style turned me off, from that
sure,
initially,
sure.
Oh, really? I feel like they nailed the art style on that.
hmm,
But like personal
and
preference, it's not like
yeah,
genre.
True.
maybe
Yes.
emotion, like what, or something like that, but yeah. And then,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of people, like, it definitely has its fans. Like, it didn't
Mhm.
do as well as expected, but it has a lot of people that did watch it, really enjoyed it, so,
Hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was one of those things where you just think it's like just a bunch of one-offs, and then they start tying in some things, and I
Sure.
won't get into anything, but I thoroughly enjoyed where it ended off. So
Hmm. Okay.
definitely a worth a watch if
Yeah, for
anyone's into
sure.
Marvel. Yeah,
Alright.
if you can read a whole book twice and try and get to the end, you can watch some Marvel TV shows.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, but there's so many Marvel TV shows. I
Three
wouldn't
True.
times.
3
True.
times, oh my gosh. Alright. Well, speaking of something that will be coming out that hopefully will warrant watching it 3 times,
Mm,
Amazon's Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of
yes.
Power. I wanted to bring this up again because so we've been talking about it, but there's a little bit a new development in the Lord of the Rings universe now.
Hmm.
Um, so I'll start with that, I guess. They've announced an anime series or an anime movie, perhaps, that is being done called The War of Rohirrim,
Hmm.
and yeah, they say it's really supposed to be in the vein of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. So it feels like it's supposed to kind of continue on that track or that tone, I guess. So,
And why is
um,
it animated?
Why is it animated? Well,
Yeah.
probably budgetary reasons and that kind of thing. It's like they don't want to spend another $1 billion on another one, I guess. Well, you don't want to see the animated? It's not.
I mean,
No.
they could have done live action, but it would just been like 3 people on horseback riding around New Zealand, and that's it.
Just get Carl Urban to come back. Just ride around.
Well, I would watch that, I guess.
I would.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I am not against animation with regard to Lord of the Rings because I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love the animated Hobbit. I think it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the where I get wary is like tying it into like, oh, it's like Peter Jackson's. Like, no, I don't want those associated with animated. If you're gonna do it animated, do it completely different. Like, don't. I just worry that they're gonna try to get stylistically. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is.
just
I would
embrace the fact
say,
that it's animated. I don't know.
yeah. I see. I don't know for sure what's going to happen here. It's done by the director of Ghost in the Shell.
Right.
I think the TV series, not the movie, probably.
And is it Fran Walsh or Philippa Boyens who's also helping produce this? I can't remember.
Um, Philippa.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. So it says movie is set in Tolkien's Middle Earth universe, and we'll go into the history of Helm's Deep, the famous site, the later battle, da, da, da. And yeah, dealing with the let's see, yeah, focusing on Helm's Deep. So, and the ninth king of Rohan.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we
Hmm.
don't know what, yeah, stylistically, like art wise, what it's gonna be like, or anything like that. So
Yeah. I just get wary when as we've talked about, we get wary about mixing medias, with
yeah,
shows and how does that translate. And sometimes that can work out really well and sometimes it doesn't, and it does worry me that someone from like Peter Jackson's team is on this. Not that I don't think they're going to do an excellent job of storytelling, but that they're going to get too um locked into, this is what we did when Peter Jackson was doing things and this is how we approached things, and then you start to convolute like, well, this is an animated thing. Like, are we not bound by, the world that's live action, or are we confusing things? Are we, getting stylistically like too real and forgetting that we're creating an animated product?
okay, yeah,
I don't
that could
know.
be
It just worries me because I think things are most successful when they remember what medium they're working in, and sometimes I think that can be difficult to like shift back and forth, and things just
sure.
don't translate to the other.
There was a quote I was trying to find that I thought was particularly relevant. I wanted to double check that it was real too, because you never know on that. Um,
True.
but it was talking about how Peter Jackson was saying when they were making Lord of the Rings, they really were making it for like almost making it not for themselves but for Tolkien.
Mhm.
What would constantly in their mind, what would he want here? How would he want his world to come across?
Mhm.
Um, and so I just like that approach, and I mean, I hope that can be um, brought to something like this animation. But to your point, sometimes you want. I kind of like what they did with the anime Star Wars Visions,
Yeah.
just like out there, tell a different story, make something up, do your own thing.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Dustin, are you much into Lord of the Rings? Is that
Oh,
that thing you're
yes.
fond of?
I
Okay.
tried very hard to read the first Lord of the Rings book. But then it's like 50 pages in, and Bilbo has just started smoking his pipe before his birthday, and I was like, no, I don't think I can handle it. I mean, I'm sure they're fantastic, but my mind
Yeah,
wanders too much, and knowing all the movies and everything before I jumped into the books, then it felt
greenfield stuff.
like it takes a long time to get to the stuff where momentum's picking up and all that. But um, I've definitely watched all the extended cuts and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I'll never forget introducing my cousin, who has never been like a fantasy fan, to him, and Crosby and I, we stayed up all night talking about it, trying to get him to like convince him. He's like, finally, okay, let's watch it. So Crosby put in the extended cut of the first one, which has, plenty of stuff to happen before it gets to the action. And Crosby and I both passed out, and my cousin was just like, "You jerks! Like, you just made me sit here and watch this." But then by the second movie, he was totally on board, because
Nice.
then it's like
Wow.
movies 2 and 3, it's just like nonstop giant battles. So
Right, action, yeah.
he was all for it.
Well, okay, so I know Andrea's answer. What's your favorite of the trilogy then?
Oh, that's hard to say because I felt like of all trilogies, like that trilogy is so close on all of them for me because
Mhm.
they're. I mean, I love number one because it really sets the stakes and everything, but then the ending doesn't really give you a satisfying. Like, it's just like, okay, we got through that, but we still have so much more to go.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, Number two had such a great like ending of triumph. Um, so I think maybe that would be my favorite, and then number three extended gives you so much more
Yeah.
stuff, which is very exciting. Um, so definitely number two would probably have to be my favorite, but then maybe number one, then number three. I'm not sure. I got to go
Okay.
back and watch them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the thing that I feel like I need to watch every 5 years or so just to
Sure.
remember how dang good they are.
They are.
Yeah.
There's such like a
Yep.
close trilogy. There's not, in my opinion, there's not one you're like, oh, obviously this
Mhm.
one, and then like, the other two. They're all just like so neck and neck, just
Yeah.
well done.
Now,
Um
as for the Hobbits, you know,
Yeah, that's different.
I enjoyed them, but I really felt like that could have been
So
two
different.
movies and
So
just
different.
cut out so much. By the
Yeah.
third one, when the actual like final battle starts, I'm like, wait, this movie's not over now. I don't know, but
I actually never saw the third Hobbit film.
oh,
That's
really?
no, yeah.
Well, I know
I
you're
was
a
pretty
diehard on
disappointed.
the. Okay.
There's a
I mean,
payoff there. I mean,
yeah, I should see it. I would like to see it, I guess. I
yeah.
don't know. I didn't get to him in the theater. I was so like affronted by the idea that you're taking The Hobbit and making it three hour movies.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is foolish.
Yeah.
Um and so I think we had a glorious magical moment where Peter Jackson and co jumped off to New Zealand, spent a decade or whatever making, a work of art, three very long films that can be watched back to back. And like you say, they're great. The music's there. They, revolutionized some special effects. Everybody always did. It was always ILM. And then Wetaworks was put on the map because of this.
Hmm.
Um, all kinds of things. We had this flavor of time, and now I feel like Tolkien's world is just it's just downhill track from here. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, they certainly
Well, I
set a
thought maybe.
standard that's hard to capture. It's hard to match that
Hmm.
again. And obviously, we
Yep.
know even with Peter Jackson, I think pretty much everyone can agree the Hobbit films failed at that.
Yeah. Well, and you start with kind of the best, which is the mistake, sort of. It's like, well, let's tell the story to near perfection that everybody wants to hear, the renowned books. Well, let's see, how can we get some more money out of this now? Let's start taking the other things. Let's take the children's book, The Hobbit, that's, 150 pages or whatever it is, whatever it is, and let's make let's stretch it beyond belief. And then now let's take, which leads me to the next part, back to the Vanity Fair article, because we were talking about this, and I don't
Hmm.
know why it didn't click with me, but I was saying how I thought that they were having to take stuff from appendices to the Lord of the Rings books.
Hmm.
And then we were talking about a lot of this stuff happening in the Silmarillion.
Hmm.
Well, in this Vanity Fair article, they call out they don't have the rights to adapt the Silmarillion.
Oh.
They have the rights to the appendices. So they're going to be telling stuff that is in the Silmarillion,
Yes.
but basing it on the appendices so they
Hmm.
can get away with this technically on a technicality. And so that means they have to fill in tons of stuff. There's already, as we talked, thousands of years of time being spanned here that
Yes.
you'd have to fill in a lot of gaps within the Silmarillion, but they can't use that, so they have to take the bite-sized cliff notes and then just invent. This is a terrible idea. Okay, we're spending $1
I didn't
billion
know about
on this.
this.
This is
I
a
know.
wrong idea. I,
I
I don't
know.
know why. It must have been my not understanding the part of the world that the part of the
Sure.
story they're telling. So I didn't click with me before, because this is just kind of stunning. So they like beg for the rights to something Tolkien. They get this and like, yeah, let's drop $1 billion and just basically invent it all because they wouldn't give us the rights to the Silmarillion.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like it's, you know, it's crazy that they didn't learn their lesson from The Hobbit, that stretching things out and inventing them is a terrible idea and people hate that. You know what I mean? Like that's
Hmm.
fundamentally, if you strip away, you know, everything that you could maybe nitpick or be annoyed or upset about at The Hobbit, that's like the essence of what's wrong with the Hobbit trilogy, is that
Yeah.
stretching out into 3 films, material that did not need to be there. It just dragged everything down and you were like, "Why do I even care at this point about all this extra crap, because it's not well done." You can feel that it's not in Tolkien's material.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, adding a
Well,
bunch of stuff here is also worrisome to me, to be like, "Oh boy, like we're going to do this again, huh? Like we're going to go in and stretch some stuff out and make it into a season." They're talking like 5, 6 seasons, possibly already planned, semi-planned. That's a little scary.
well, I'd have to say that Jeff Bezos, has never really been in touch with what people want. So it kind of makes sense that he's like,
Penis rockets.
yeah,
Uh, number 1 on Christmas list.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure that he's just like, here, people like Lord of the Rings, right?
Well, and he
Here's a
does.
bunch of
It's the
money.
crazy part. They keep talking in the article about like how much Jeff Bezos like loves Lord of the Rings and is so like, we had
But
to get
does
our
he?
hands on this property. Well, that's the thing. It's like, do you really love Lord of the Rings then, if you got your hands on this property and said, "We're going to, take what we can get and then stretch it out into all this different stuff?" Like
Hmm.
that's not real love, you know? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Like if you
No,
really
yeah.
love Lord of the Rings, like how would you want this version of it?
For all
That
we
that
know, it could be PR speak. It's like the
Right,
really
that's what I
ridiculous
mean.
thing when you sit down and you
Mhm.
listen. It's a behind the scenes video, and they're talking to the producer, an executive producer, and co-executive producer, and they're just like going on and on about authenticity and the person that they, the dream cast they have, and it's just they're selling the movie that they invested in. Like
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
they're there, and if it feels like a suit talking to you from a monitor, or they just
Right.
have that PR speak. So maybe Bezos does like it, but it strikes me as like it's a thing that, oh yeah, I read those books as a kid. I really like them. That's fun. Here's $1 billion. Make me a lot of money with
Mhm.
it. I don't know, like it
Yeah.
just
It does.
I
It does
loved it
feel.
so much that I decided to chop out a bunch and then
Yeah.
make up my own story. Like,
Yeah.
cool. I love your fan fiction. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Your $1 billion fan fiction. Um, yeah, it's tough because I also feel like the timing on this suggests not a love for Lord of the Rings is driving this, but we're still throwing things at the wall to find the next Game of Thrones, especially with
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Wheel of Time coming out and this coming out now. It's just like I don't know that I believe that wholeheartedly,
Mhm.
Again, not that Jeff Bezos couldn't love Lord of the Rings or be
Right.
interested or, have read them and been like, I like this. Um, but it does feel suspect to be like, oh, he's so invested, he's so excited, and you know,
Mhm.
this is his passion. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think
at
it's
me, Jeff Bezos. I don't know if this is your passion. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah, we want to hear from you, absolutely. And when you write in this show, I'm going to tell you what a dick you were to William Shatner. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know if you guys saw that live when William Shatner
Mm.
went up in
I
the
didn't
his
know.
rocket. Then he
Mhm.
came down and they were like he was going to go over and talk to him. And again, you could tell it was just for a PR moment. William Shatner was like crying and he had like an emotional experience going into
Oh, like
space.
crying because like
Yeah, he just
like
was
oh my
he's
god,
like
I just
it
went in
like
space.
he was
Like
he was trying to talk about how it like put life in
sure,
a new perspective and like all
sure,
this stuff. And
Yeah.
Bezos had to just like, oh sorry, and go over to get a bottle of champagne to spray on everyone. And
Yep.
and then
I did see
I
that.
just was
Oh,
like,
pick your
what
moment, Bezos. Pick your moment. Read
Yep.
the room. Ooh.
asshole.
Well,
Jesus.
I wouldn't expect someone who makes that much money off of underpaid people to have any sort of sympathy or connection with another human being.
You're
Right.
So,
expressing human emotion?
ooh,
Uncomfortable. Let
yep.
me get some
Mhm.
champagne. I will
Mhm.
drink
Yeah.
this memory of human emotion away.
Uh
Yep.
man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not I think there's a real hubris here that people seem to think, well, people really like those Lord of the Rings books. They're pretty good. I'm sure we can make something cool with that. And
Mhm.
not like under thinking about the craft that goes into specifically writing a fleshed out world that's paced in a specific way. I mean, we see it with Game of Thrones. We see
Right.
what happens when the final parts weren't actually thought out. They weren't
Right.
actually like this was the plan. This is I mean, if it was just easy, George R. R. Martin would be done. Those books would be done. But
Yeah.
he's trying to get it right and then
Yeah.
do a bunch of other stuff too, like Elden Ring. But like he's trying to make it right and it has
Right.
to things have to pay off and his world has to conclude properly, and so then you
Right.
get some writers room at Amazon just thinks they can just take these ideas and we're just going to make it brilliant.
Mhm.
um what are your credentials, like how are you, what epic fantasy masterpiece have you written that you just get to do this now, to like people forget how influential Tolkien's work was. Like
Mhm.
our idea of fantasy is because of him. Like
Mhm.
whether it's Game of Thrones, it's D&D, everything we have with
Wheel of Time.
mages and elves and all of it is because of him. And I know he based on other things as well, but that's where we get it. That's our touchstone for that. So like to just casually do this, I don't know. I just
Mhm.
it speaks to not caring about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you bring up obviously a salient point with Game of Thrones. I mean, season 8, 7 and 8 were basically working off of George R. R. Martin's like bullet points, outlines, much like appendices and
Yeah.
filling that in. Didn't work out so well. I
Mhm.
mean, everybody had pretty negative reactions to season 7. Obviously nothing like season 8, but it's not like people sat there going, "Ooh, this is so good," even in season 7. And that seems to be the problem again here. Now, I am absolutely willing, after watching the series, to eat my words if I am wrong. If it turns out
Sure.
great, I will
Yeah.
be so flipping excited. I
Mhm.
will lose my mind and I will be the first to be like, I was wrong, criticized, I said all this shit. You know, once again, Jeff Bezos, you can at me and tell me how wrong I was. Bring the champagne. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like people aren't learning this lesson of you can't just take bullet points and outlines and sketches and just fill in whatever you want and think it's going to be great, because 9 times out of 10 it hasn't turned out great, and we've noticed.
Yeah. People are going to ask me like, John, why in the future, why are you doing your podcast by yourself now? What happened to Andrea? Oh, she saw Lord of the Rings on Amazon, lost her mind, so she can't form words anymore. Her mind is gone.
Oh,
I'll
I
just
thought you were gonna
randomly
say
pop up just gibbering.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Jeff Bezos like bought her town and landed his spaceship on her house or something.
Landed his penis spaceship on my house. I am no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. That would be an ending, yeah.
It
That'd be
would be.
something.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. One more, well, okay, two more news stories to power through before we get to our main topic here. I just wanted to say that Horizon Forbidden West, thing I've been looking forward to because one of my favorite games of all time is Horizon Zero Dawn. So the sequel has finally launched as of Friday. Review scores are coming in good. Seems to be well received thus far. I bought the Behemoth. I was really fortunate to be. I hesitated on buying one of the collector's edition things, and then when I decided I was going to, they were all sold out.
Mm,
And so I just happened to check. I think on a day that they dropped some news about Horizon, I checked again on
mhm.
PlayStation's official site, and there was the super expensive giant normal box of Horizon stuff. And so if you follow us on Twitter, go ahead and check a look there. I posted the pictures of what's in it and stuff. So
Do you want to give us
yeah.
like a little teaser of a few things, or one item in particular that you really loved or are excited
Well, I
about?
mean, yeah, it comes with a steelbook. It comes a replica
Mhm.
of the of her Focus. It comes with a giant statue of one of the new machines called the Tremor
Cool.
Tusk. It's huge. I don't know where to put it. Art cards, little game pieces, and then some digital content. It comes with a soundtrack.
Sure.
It comes with a big cloth map of the world.
Yeah, that map
Yeah.
looks gorgeous.
hmm The funniest thing, it doesn't come with a physical copy of the game.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. Neither special edition, I believe there's two of them. I don't think either of them come with a physical copy of the game. So you get a steel book, but it's empty. It just has things for the codes.
Did you know that
That's so
before
I
getting
weird.
did
it?
know that
Okay.
because I actually have the digital version of the
Okay.
PS5. So I'm stuck getting digital ones for this system anyways.
Okay.
So I was perfectly okay with that.
I was just
And
curious if you were, opening and expecting to find, and then we're like, what?
Oh, that'd be
yeah,
Wouldn't
yeah,
that be the
yeah,
worst?
no,
yeah.
it's gonna be some that will
What
happen to some
happened?
people, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
but
mean, at least there's a code to download it. It wasn't just like, no,
It's
you're
no
yeah,
just
game.
getting all the accessories. Still gotta go ahead
yeah.
and get the game.
I mean, we talk about physical versus digital. We just talked pre-show about the downsides of digital or whatever, and and with the Netflix stuff too
Mhm.
now, and it's but I wanted to play the first Horizon Zero Dawn again, or I was thinking about it anyways, and I for a while I couldn't because I don't have a disc drive on the PS5,
Oh,
and I bought
sure.
that on it with a disc. So it shows the game in my library, but I can't play it because it knows I need to put the disc in.
Sure.
Now I
Mm.
could pull out my PS4 Pro from wherever and hook it up and stuff like that, but so I have a way to play it. And then
Mhm.
eventually became available on PS Plus 1 month. So then I made
Okay.
sure I claimed it.
Oh.
And so now I have it digitally as well.
Sure.
So, but either way, it was a hiccup for a while, like with that. So,
Hmm.
yep. I've been playing it. I got started. I'm a number of hours in. It's just absolutely beautiful. It is probably it's got to be the most beautiful game I've ever seen. The
Right.
detail is just stunning. I can't stop going into photo mode. I don't know how I'm gonna ever beat the game because I just always have to go into photo mode, like buzz around, like look at the grass and like just all the stuff. Um, I learned how to play the new built-in game. So like Witcher has Gwent and a game
Right.
within a game. This one has Machine Strike. It's called. It's kind of like a sort of a mix of Catan and chess,
Mm,
and
interesting.
Love
Catan,
it.
chess, and like your standard card battler because you have your pieces that each have like how much they can move, their health, their attack. But then it depends on the terrain they're on. They can have some of them can have buff if they're on certain terrain. So the boards you play on are different depending on so if it's grass or hills or whatever, you know.
Hmm.
And then you move them around, have to take all the other person's pieces, and pretty fun so far. So
Cool.
Sweet.
yeah,
I always love it when a
it,
game adds that kind of
yeah.
extra level in there.
Because then I went in the bar and I had a drink with someone. The people, the side characters in this game so far are so much better than they were executed in the first one. A lot of them are the same characters, but they're so much more believable. They not only just the way that they look and they act and they move and all this stuff that just feels right. They're also just more. They're more alive in the dialogue. There's more dialogue options. I can actually have a conversation with these people. I found that a lot of them in the first game I really didn't care about. I just cared about the main story. I cared about the mystery. But the
Hmm.
aside people, like I really if they died, I wouldn't even care. But in this one, it's like changed that pretty quick. All of a sudden, like, oh, this person, Varro, you're pretty cool, So like different people like that. But it's been
Nice.
good. So
Excellent.
yes, that's my quick preview, I guess. First thoughts. One more gaming story. CD Project Red.
Hmm.
They really bungled up some stuff. The management there really, really, I don't know. I'm not without swearing. I don't know how to describe it best. I need a better. I need a thesaurus right now because they messed up some things, and I don't know that they can get their credibility back anytime quick. Well, some people that have worked there, that worked on Witcher and Cyberpunk, have left now and made their own studio. And
Hmm.
so I wanted to bring
Mm,
this up for a couple reasons. One is we talk a lot about acquisitions and the acquisition hungry market we're in right now and stuff.
Right.
And this is my evidence for why it's not something we need to worry about so much.
Hmm.
Because there'll always be new studios, always be someone that they're unhappy. They have a resume they've built up. They're unhappy with where they work, or they have ideas of different things they want to do, and they start their own company.
Hmm.
And we see that with smaller companies like who made Sifu, like you were talking, Dustin, earlier, and
mhm.
now this new game studio that these developers are starting up called Rebel Wolves Studio.
Yep.
Um, yeah, we'll get something hopefully cool from them.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
And
Yeah.
hopefully
See
they
what
don't
they
have
can come
their
up with.
corporate overlords like demanding they
Mhm.
like switch their game to from third person to first person so they have to
Right.
restart the whole thing again and then like make it happen on past gen consoles and then release it too early anyways, not give out review copies for the old gen, like the list of things that just destroys our trust in this beloved company. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't give a whole lot. I mean, it says they're already working on their first game and we get like a little art from that, which looks pretty sweet, but there's not a lot there to go on. Um which, I think like is kind of about right for announcing, you're breaking off and starting this new gaming company. You don't want to give everything away. You want to get people interested, but not like you also don't want to like overpromise. Just be like, "Yep, we're working on a cool game. Here's a photo to get you like in the
Yeah.
mood." You don't want to be
Yeah,
like,
just like
"Hey,
the
we're working
last
on a
game, you don't
game."
want to
Like,
overpromise. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Don't want to be like, hey, we're releasing like a game later this year. Forget that. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, sounds cool. I'm excited. They sound like they're already like hard at work on what they want to do. So,
Yeah,
who could expect more?
it's great. All right. That's about it for the news. We might as well talk about a video game adjacent topic.
Mm.
The topic of the week, the Uncharted movie.
Ooh.
Spoilers ahead. Uncharted is a pretty renowned video game franchise from Naughty Dog of Sony, and they have been trying to get an Uncharted movie off the ground for many years. Different names attached, different directors attached. Was going to be Mark Wahlberg being Nathan Drake at first, just all kinds of stuff. And you guys didn't hear about that? Oh yeah,
No.
for quite a while, Mark Wahlberg was going to be Nathan Drake.
Nope.
And went on long enough that they
Nope.
eventually, yeah, shifted up, and now he's Sully. But yeah. So I've not been excited for an Uncharted movie for a very long time because of this like kind of production hell that it was involved in, and then
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion being passed up a multitude of times
Mhm.
to play his,
Is he?
you know, dream role or the perfect role for him in favor of what was going to be Mark Wahlberg. And then when they announced like uh you know, babyface man child Tom Holland was going to be Nathan Drake, then I was like
Girl, do
not
you have
extra
strong feelings
excited
about
either.
Tom Holland? I couldn't tell
I
there.
yeah,
He's
I
real
mean,
subtle.
he does. I don't think he's a bad actor at all. Not saying that.
Yeah.
Just he looks very young, and it's a great
Mhm.
benefit to an actor, generally speaking. I would say to look young for a long time.
Yep.
So you know, all for it. But anyways, we have Dustin on. He came and saw the movie with us. Andrea watched the movie with us.
Mhm.
Dustin is a longtime Uncharted fan, so his opinion is definitely valuable here. Andrea, you bring the perspective of not being as familiar with the Uncharted
That's right. I'm a
franchise.
newbie.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I
we've
know
got the
some
bases
iconic
covered.
images. I've seen some gameplay, but I've not actually played the games myself. So I'm fairly
Yeah.
new.
All right. Well, we'll start with you and then Andrea. Uncharted the
Ooh.
film. What'd you
Uncharted
think?
the film. Well, one of my first reactions upon hearing you talk is thank God Mark Wahlberg wasn't Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
Um, even as a newbie, I can tell that's a mismatch. Um, I mean, between looks and personality, I would not feel that at all. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, I was sort of iffy about him being cast as Sully, but hearing that news, I'm sort of like, oh well, we got a treat that he moved into that role instead. Um, on the whole, I would give this movie maybe a kind of sideways thumbs up. You
Okay.
know, I didn't not like it, but I felt that there were some very real problems with it.
Is that
Um,
official metric? Like
like
sideways?
a
It's
sideways
like,
thumbs up.
yeah.
It is, I think,
Okay.
unless
Okay.
we're using our metrics. Um,
Oh, how many fingers?
how many fingers of whiskey? Um, I would say this would be like, oh, like 1.5 fingers of whiskey.
Okay. Okay.
So
All
there
right.
there were some good things, and there were some moments I enjoyed. Um, and there were some casting choices I thought worked, but I think there were some very real problems with this movie. And I don't want to
Okay.
get too far into them without, kind of like giving others a
Okay.
chance to speak, but
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to hear what those are. Dustin, what do you think?
You want me to start with my rating, or what do you just like the
Well, I mean,
overview?
your overall thoughts. Did you enjoy it?
overall impression, yeah.
Was it a good time? Yeah.
Well, okay, yes, I will say that I did enjoy it. Um, I think at this point in my life, after seeing so many video game movies and realizing that they're never gonna be, I mean, you've got kind of two categories of video game movies. The video game movies where they're like, okay, we have to put in every single thing that players play and try and make it feel like that so that they can really connect with this movie and go see it. And then there's the people who are like, this is an interesting premise. Let's tweak it to what we need it to be a serviceable movie. And I feel like the first option is terrible because then you always get terrible movies like Doom and stuff like that. The second option, you know, to varying degrees can be successful. I felt like this might be the best video game movie I've seen. I don't think it's one of the best movies I've seen, but it's one of those where like it's an action adventure, find the treasure, ancient ruins, Tomb Raider, National Treasure kind of movie. So, you know, mixed with some of the ideas from video games for set pieces, I think it had a lot going for it. I think that they missed some opportunities in places, but I would give it maybe 6.8 lost artifacts out of 10.
Nice. Oh, that poor like seventh artifact that got chipped in pieces.
Yeah, you just
whatever.
couldn't find the full piece, but
Yeah.
it's out there.
Yeah.
It's not gone.
Nice.
It's just
Yeah.
lost.
All right. Um.
John,
Yeah.
your turn.
I. Yeah. I went in with very low expectations. Kind of same thing with video game adaptations. I don't have high hopes, and then nothing really screamed at me that I should be excited as we went forward. Whether it was the production hell or then Tom Holland being cast, Sully not having a mustache, like simple things.
Mhm.
So it didn't give me a reason to be really excited, but at the same time, that being different enough gave me the opportunity to go in and like, okay, maybe I'll enjoy this for what it is. And I came away pretty surprised. I don't have a lot of complaints. I really enjoyed the film. I think it's something that it seems anyways audiences have been missing. You mentioned some of them: National Treasure, Da Vinci Code, indie, whatever these like summer action, the Mummy adventure kind of films. They kind of all have a similar aesthetic and tone, and yeah, we haven't had any of those in a while, and I think this one did that kind of subgenre uh, well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
so Andrea, what do you hate? So why are you so hateful? Why are you so hateful, Andrea? What do you?
I like how we go from asking an objective question, what do you hate, to why are you so hateful?
Yeah.
Andrea, why does your heart burn with hatred?
Yeah.
Why are you a ruiner of joy?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. um, so I guess a couple of larger elements that I felt when watching the movie that disrupted my enjoyment. First I do want to say overall, I think this is a smart movie to make if you're going to be making um a video game movie. Like you guys have said, like this is something that's very like broadly appealing. Well, we're hunting for treasure, we're exploring new places, like, they've got great scenery in this movie. It's like, oh, like find the treasure. All like very, appealing things that people have been missing, that kind of like summer blockbuster. Totally agree with that. Um what I would say is one of the first problems for me was that I felt like Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland were not acting off of each other. I felt like they were especially in the beginning. I felt like by the end, maybe their relationship and their on-screen chemistry kind of gelled. But in the beginning, I did not feel like they were really on the same team and like acting off of one another. I felt like they were each doing their sort of own thing, hitting their own marks, saying their own words, but not really like saying them for each other. It was just sort of like
Hmm.
okay, I see what you're doing over there, but I'm sort of like doing my thing and saying like my quippy thing. And okay, cool. We ended the scene. Let's go to the next scene. It didn't really feel like there was a gelling relationship building. So I had a problem, I think, with their chemistry off of one another for, I would say, a solid at least half of the movie. I just didn't really feel like they were quite on the same page with each other. Um, and for this movie, for those characters, I felt like that was a real problem. That they just didn't seem to be working towards the same goals when being in the same scene.
Hmm.
Another very large problem that I had um, was the very big disparities between like villains in the movie. I thought Antonio Banderas was like having the time of his life. I felt his character. I felt him like being in there. I felt him being
Hmm.
like, House of Moncada, like, I have to get back our treasure. Like, I'm going to prove it to my father. Screw you all. Like, this is something, I have the right to. Even if I didn't agree with him on everything and how like spoiled he was and how like this was just sort of
Murderous.
yeah, well, murderous. Yeah, I definitely didn't agree with him murdering his father and being like, "Sorry, dad." Had to happen. Um, but I definitely felt, I was totally into his whole like on the plane speech of like, "Today's the day. We're finally getting this back." Like, you know, how many years ago the House of Moncada funded this trip for these people and then got screwed out of this. I totally felt his mindset there. It didn't really matter if I agreed with him. I just felt his
Hmm.
like, intent and
Yeah.
his believability. And then Tati Gabrielle came in and just like slit his throat. And I was like, oh, but you're like not an interesting villain in this to take over from here. Her performance throughout the whole movie, I felt was very uneven. She wasn't all that menacing.
Hmm.
And then like at times she was sort of like, oh, maybe like we're gonna have like a relationship between Mark Wahlberg and her. Oh, maybe we're not. Oh, suddenly she's, uncomfortable with where this is going. Suddenly she's a throat slitter. Like, I did not know where her character landed on the map, and I just felt it was all over the place. And
Hmm.
then by the end, she was sort of like cartoon villainy, like, let's go, boys. Like, I'm leading this expedition. And it really disappointed me because I've seen her do really amazing things on screen. I absolutely loved her character in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I think she crushed it in the Netflix series You. She had great performances there. So I know she's capable and really just was not showcased here. So I was very disappointed in that character.
Yeah.
Um so I felt like those were like two really big things. Um the third thing I had a problem with, and this kind of goes back a little bit to the chemistry between Wahlberg and Holland. There were some scenes that felt very like, here is our objective. We are going to do the thing. We are going to say quips to each other. Other scene. Like there were some transitions that weren't very smooth and felt more like a video game, like where you like go into a scene, you have an objective, you've completed the objective. Now the game is like, "Great, I'm going to take you here." And I don't think that translates to movies. You
Hmm.
can't just do like the we've gone into this scene objective, we've said funny things, transition scene over here. Um so I felt that there was just a little bit of like, I'm not quite sure like why we're over here now, how we got over here now, because it just felt very like blocky and episodic. So I think
Hmm.
that was maybe a failure of like transition between scenes. And I felt like it really happened in kind of like the middle of the movie. Um, in particular when they were kind of like on the trail and on the quest and there were like things that they had to do and then suddenly it was like, oh well, by happenstance now we know we have to go over here. So those were my three big, like, kind of prevented my total enjoyment of the movie.
Sure.
Fair enough. I would
Do you
definitely agree with
agree?
you on the villains, whereas I felt like the rich guy kind of had a motivation that was interesting, and like he didn't need to play it up. He had his moments that were like interesting. And then I felt like when he died, it was like purely just for them to be like, I don't know, how is this guy gonna get his comeuppance? I know, let's just kill him out of nowhere because that'll be shocking. And like, it just didn't feel earned, or like she was gonna make tons of money. Like she was gonna, I don't know. It didn't
Well,
really
yeah, what
sit
was
with
really the
me.
point?
Yeah, I'm like, because she had that much control this whole time that like now she's taking over the whole crew. And yeah, I
Everybody
didn't.
just like doesn't question the whole leadership change.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, is this gonna be a
They
thing
had
now
to
where
be in
like
on it.
everyone's trying to like kill each other now or something
Right.
weird? But they never went that angle.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
John said, they had to be in on it, but I never really felt that because you only saw her with like the two dudes, and you were like, okay, those are her dudes, but like suddenly everybody
yeah.
else is hers too. Like,
hmm
yeah.
I think I think they're trying to say at some point that like that was like basically her army.
Mm,
And um I think this was heavily her character was heavily based off of Nadine from number 4 and Lost
mhm.
Legacy, where she is like basically she has an army of like um mercenaries.
Okay,
And she didn't pull it off the same way that they do in the games, where it's
sure.
like a very like interesting and capable woman who like works with whoever makes sense to work with. But she just kind of seemed like, I don't know, she was his assassin, and then all of a sudden then I assassinated him and now I
Yeah,
have all this money, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
right. Like you said,
I-
it didn't feel earned.
yeah.
There wasn't enough investment in building her character to suddenly be like, oh, sure,
Mhm.
like she's a capable villain.
Yeah, and they definitely had her like two goons who they were almost trying to build up as like, okay, Tom Holland really can't go up against these guys. Sorry, Drake can't really go up against these guys. And it's going to be kind of that thing that builds over the movie where like they just can't get him, and he keeps making them madder and madder to the point where like they're really the nemesises of the movie together. And I don't even remember how that guy died. Like, when did that happen? I don't recall
Helicopter.
it.
Yeah, I was
In
gonna
the
say the
helicopter
Scottish guy was
crash.
in the
Oh, that's
helicopter.
right.
Was the other
Okay.
one there?
And then the
Did
other
the other
guy
one go overboard?
jumped onto the boat and was fighting, and then like
Yeah,
fell off and
yeah.
smacked into a
Oh,
mountain.
Cliff.
And it
Yeah.
was,
Ooh,
yeah, and it was just like, okay, like they didn't build it up enough, and they didn't give that moment of like, okay, he defeated him. Like there
mhm.
was never a moment of like
Like a rest.
a good defeating the
Mhm.
villain kind of moment. Like at the end, the boat fell on her, which was fine, but like the boat didn't mean that much to her to start off the movie, other than all of a sudden at the end she wants to be rich. So it wasn't like a good, ooh, like this is your destiny to get
Right.
crushed again.
Here's your comeuppance. Yeah.
Yeah, like if Antonio Banderas got crushed by that, then it would be like, oh
Oh,
yeah, screwed over yet again by this voyage or whatever.
exactly.
But yeah, they just that's what really didn't sit well with me, is that they didn't really know how to treat their villains. And that's 50% of the chemistry going on in a movie where it's you're getting chased and racing to the next thing. So I don't think they pulled that off. But
Yeah, I
I
was really disappointed that they didn't stick with Antonio Banderas till the end.
mhm,
It felt natural, like I was there with it, and like you said, when he died, there was equally no like real payoff of that, and there was no logic to it.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely should have ended where he's gone crazy. He's losing everything. He's risked it all for
right.
this, and He's doing the like
Right. You're not gonna screw me
disheveled
over
hair,
like my
like
ancestors got screwed over. Like, this is my
yeah.
gold.
And then they'll be like, "You can have it," and then that's when he dies, and it's just like,
Ship drop.
"Yeah, you got it." But no,
You'll have
I
it
mean,
forever now.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They,
No, I agree. I think that's easily the biggest downfall. That's my one complaint, like major complaint of the movie is the villains. And really just that changing of hands because I didn't understand it at all. So like you say, if maybe she is like it's kind of her armed force or her people, I guess. But in but we don't even get the sense that like, oh, I'm tired of being treated like this or something. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to replace me all the time, or we don't even have that like as a why. So I like invented in my head. I'm thinking, well, okay, so they say the Filipino government is coming to their ship is coming at the end. They'll get to the ships first, to the gold first. So my thought was, okay, was she actually working for the Filipino government or something? And so they're like, we're gonna just because I had no idea. I had no
Yeah.
idea why this was happening and why the people with her that we just went along with it and we're
Yeah.
okay. That was
mhm,
not it. If it was foreshadowed or hinted at, it was done very
Poorly.
poorly
yeah,
because there should have been something where we really were aware of that. And if they were basing it off of Nadine, it's a huge mistake because Nadine is a complicated character in that she has these mercenaries, but she starts like not being okay with how they're being used in a way
Hmm.
and like the loss
mm,
of life from her people and all that stuff. Like it's
yeah,
so she's not just like a bad guy, that's out to get rich or something like that. So if if they're basing off this character off of Nadine, I don't know why they wouldn't just include Nadine in the film
mm.
because I was thinking like going forward, if they make more, they almost can't put Nadine in now because it would like be weird, you know?
Well, I guess I thought
Um,
like at the end they were like thinking they needed to kill off these enemies, and so I don't think that they could. Maybe in the first draft it was Nadine or something like that, and they felt
Hmm.
like, we probably can't right off the bat kill one of the. I mean, she was only really in number 4 and the spin-off game, but they probably felt like they couldn't get away with that
Hmm.
but they
going.
didn't. That's the thing. They didn't need to kill her off. You would have
True.
made an interesting and sympathetic character if she was like always kind of one step behind the
Hmm.
competition, whether it's Chloe or it's Drake or something like that. And so she's getting frustrated. She has her people that
Yeah.
are whether in her family or whatever. And so when a betrayal maybe makes sense, but not for like a turn for for the gold or something
Hmm.
like that. And
Hmm.
so it would be more of a you don't have the help of my men anymore. Like the
Right.
Yeah.
cost isn't worth it here. We're out. Peace. Do this yourself or something
Right.
like that. Because now that creates a sympathetic character that's learned something that
Hmm.
moving forward we can have something more interesting with her. And
Definitely.
because yeah, I
And
don't
the
know.
Yeah.
vibe I got from this movie for sure was like, hey, let's go with young babyface Tom Holland, and
Right.
then we can just do these for the next 30 years.
Hmm.
Right.
Like, they have plenty of time to just keep on exploring, which I'm not against.
Right.
But like you said, like, that would have been great if maybe just the bad guy, Antonio Banderas, got to the point where he went crazy and like had to get his gold and then died, and at some point she was like, screw this, and then
Hmm.
that sets up great dynamics for future movies.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that they just sort of didn't pick a lane for her character. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like she she really was in the beginning, like she felt kind of small time. She just felt smaller than Antonio Banderas, and it was just like, well, okay, well, she's like a mercenary working with these two guys, and then suddenly she had an army. And it's like,
Yeah.
I really didn't see that coming, so I really wish they would have like been like, okay, we're just gonna keep her small time, and Makata goes to the end, and then she goes off somewhere. Maybe she lives, maybe she dies. Like, I don't know, but this is like the lane we've got for her character. Or like you guys were talking about, if she really was based on Nadine, yes, she's got this whole like group of mercenaries. She's a little bit bigger than that. Makata contracts her in. You know, he kind of just like gets too single-minded in his pursuit of the gold, starts, kind of like using her team expendably, and she's out. Like, either one of those stories would have been more interesting than the like smash together,
Hmm.
mix up that they had, where you're just like, I don't really know what her story is and where she's coming from. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, she's being used by him over here, but now she's like taking over. Everybody seems to be going along with it. Like, she's got dozens of people, like these fancy helicopters for lifting out the ships. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it just didn't quite match up.
It definitely seemed like they had a movie, and then at some point they rewrote the ending,
Yeah.
and they
Mhm.
weren't quite sure. They just figured this would be better than what we had last time, and then that's what made it. And then
Right.
so just forget about planting all the seeds that would make sense as to why everything's
Right.
happening at the end. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and the other thing that they could have done with getting that, if they're using her as Nadine and having her a reason that she'd leave is, it's kind of a common thing in all of the Uncharted games, except for when Amy Hennig was kicked out, and then they did Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. The other ones all have a supernatural element. I don't
Yes.
think 4
Mm,
does. And so it's because it's
Mhm.
a hallmark of an Indiana Jones thing as well, where it's like it's all based, we're telling these
right.
tall tales. This is a history, this is a
Right.
religion, what's true. Of course, Indy is like whatever the superstition part of it, but then part of it's always true. And so you always get the surprise of something mystical as supernatural occurs to throw a wrench in the
Mhm.
end things. So it would make sense that like her men now are excavating or whatever, and they are disappearing or they are dropping like flies, and there's like tales of ghosts or whatever, something going on, and then
Mhm.
so you get there and it's another thing you have to contend with. That would be an interesting battle other than just a few henchmen, that most of the henchmen are being killed slash get the hell out of there, and then
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
we have to deal with, I don't know, skeleton pirates. Take your
Mm,
pick. But you'd have to lead up to that a little bit. You drop a few hints here and there or something
Yeah.
like that, just so it
Yep.
doesn't take audiences too off.
right.
Because it's kind of like Indiana Jones. You explain the Ark of the Covenant. What's that shooting out of there? I don't know. Raw energy, like whatever. You explain the mysticism, so then when we get there and it actually happens, you're like, oh damn.
Right.
So
Mhm. That was one of the biggest things for me for number 4 was loved 1 through 3. They're great. They always had that twist at the end that finally came out that's like, "Oh, this is what's
yeah,
actually happening with this treasure," which is crazy. And then number 4, I was expecting that the whole way through. And it's a fairly long game, and I'm like, "You're
yes,
really waiting for that at the end." And then it never came, and I was just like, "Okay, I understand that that was a very good game." But at the same time, I felt like I missed something because it
Sure.
it wasn't what the other ones were, which, was that
yep,
formula at some point. But when it came to this movie, the beginning had so many similarities with 4 that I wasn't expecting it. I was kind of thinking like, even though I would have loved it to have that kind of angle added in, it's kind of like, okay, someone definitely played Uncharted 4 and was like, okay, I'm gonna base my script on this, and then it just went the route of real world treasure seeking, which is totally fine for
yep,
this. Like, there's plenty of excitement to do with
Mhm.
that and stuff like that. Um,
yeah,
Yeah, I feel
but
like
yeah.
I feel like it's maybe a smarter move for the first movie to
Hmm.
leave out that element, and then they can kind of maybe introduce that in later movies if they are going to do, which it I mean, the ending seemed like we're keeping them
Sure.
for this trilogy. But I guess, yeah, for those who have played the game, that would be potentially a
Mhm.
disappointing element here for sure.
Well, it's a little sad to me because it seems like Naughty Dog is like Neil Druckmann's studio. You know, it just is like everything is whatever Neil Druckmann wants to do. And so that's great. And it makes amazing games in The Last of Us when you want to have this like grounded zombie thing that's like about moral ambiguity and dark choices and, you know, trauma. But then you have him take over Uncharted, and that's why 4 feels it is darker. It is more serious. Like there's more moments even to like dwell on the past, you know.
Mhm.
Nathan's getting a little older, you know. They just it removes some of the fun and then they make the game 2 or 3 times longer than the other
Mm,
ones.
sure.
And then remove the supernatural element. And so like all this stuff is like, well, I didn't want my Uncharted to be Last of Us. Like these are
Yeah.
separate things. And so like
Mhm.
Amy Hennig's baby, like she understood so well what makes an Indiana Jones film an Indiana Jones film and how that
Sure.
can apply to this. And so it just, you know, they really signaled it when they released the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection or something for PC remaster just a few weeks ago or something. And
Mhm.
it's Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. Well, why you want all these PC players to start with 4?
Yeah.
Where what the first 3 that they can't play because they're not
Mhm.
accessible and able to play on PC. So they're clearly like that's why I'm kind of worried about the future of Uncharted. They're like, we're doing the Druckmann way
Yeah.
and the more serial
Sure.
thing. And so, yeah, just if they did take some of that blueprint along with like cherry picking like exciting moments, you know, action sequences from the other ones for this movie, I think that's part of, yeah,
Mhm.
why it could have been a little more as much fun as it was. And as much
Mhm.
as I really enjoyed the ride.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I thought even Antonio Banderas' character was a little reminiscent of the villain from 4.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't remember him very well, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah.
him very well either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all to be
Not at
actually.
all. God. What's wrong with me?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very
Um,
interesting. I didn't know that background between
Sure.
those games, but now that makes sense because he has a very cinematic feel to the way he puts together his stories and stuff, which is why that feels the most
Mhm.
cinematic to all of them. But then totally cuts out parts that made Uncharted
mhm.
what was Uncharted to begin with. So
Sure.
interesting.
Yeah. Um,
I will
and Amy Hennig
say,
was attached to a Star Wars game for forever, and then EA canceled it. So that was her
Oh
fate.
no.
Amy
oh,
Hennig was going to do basically Star Wars Uncharted. And
Oh,
she was in development. Yeah.
was that the
And then
33 or what was that
no,
called?
nope, that was in Coruscant, like the really below level, lower levels thing, kind of
Mhm.
bounty
mhm.
hunter something.
Oh,
This
there's
was
another
different.
one that she was doing. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
hmm So
Interesting.
that got the axe, and now she's somewhere else doing something else. I forget what,
Too
Okay.
bad.
yeah, yeah. Project Ragtag, that her thing she started up. Maybe Alan posted here.
Hmm.
I don't remember.
Project
That
Ragtag.
doesn't ring a bell, but
I have to look
Interesting.
that
what
up.
do we think
Yeah.
about the
Oh, it was
oh,
canceled?
project. Oh, that was the code name for it. Okay, all right,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
Okay.
What do we think about the other characters? Specifically, I guess you know, like
Chloe Fraser.
Sully, really, like yeah, and Chloe. How do we feel they came across? We've been talking villains for a while.
I will say that I don't know if it's because now I've seen so many things where it's like different interpretations and like the multiverse where like the what if series like we were talking about where it's like this character could be a different person and
Mhm.
maybe in my old senile age I'm also just not as willing to like really attack movies for certain things that don't fit what I've already seen.
Sure.
I'm okay with things changing. So I felt like Marky Mark being in there didn't really bother me. I felt like he did a good job of being kind of like the teacher who is like, you know, still has a lot to learn, but knows just a little bit more than Nathan Drake, and he's willing to, bring him under his wing. He's definitely not the Sully that you ever get to see in the games because
Mhm.
he's kind of an old man all the time, even in like flashbacks. So, um, I'm glad that they at least brought back the mustache at the very end there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like these are just slightly different versions. I feel like Tom Holland was a little bit closer to what Nathan Drake is than Mark Wahlberg was to
Sure.
Sully. Um, and Chloe, I felt like, this is kind of the younger version of her too, because she doesn't really show up until Nathan is older in number two. But she felt like, she kind of had the same character for
But
most
there's a
part.
suggested past. When
Hmm.
she shows up in 2, they know each other. We see her for the first time, but
Hmm.
if I recall, they've had a history.
So it
Mhm.
felt like she fit in
Yeah.
with what was in the games, whereas the other guys were kind of more of like a here's our take on what the younger versions of them were like, I guess. Um, and I guess I won't get into this too much, but one thing I wanted to bring up was that like the map jumping and the clues that are left
Mm.
around, like they in the games, I always felt like they go out of their way to make sure that you understand all these characters who are doing this are super smart. Like
Mhm.
they have studied, they know their
Mm.
Latin, they know the history, so that when they're putting together the clues, it's not like in the movie where they just open a jar and they're like, well, the treasure's not here, but there's a map. And that basically points to the treasure.
Right.
Like, it's them, like, remembering, okay, like, he died at this time and it's
Mhm.
rumored like they piece together history and then that's when they've realized the clue to
Right.
like take the pieces together, and I felt like that was something that they needed to give Tom Holland a little bit more of, to be like he's not just a thief. Like him and
Mhm.
his brother were born into like learning this knowledge, and that's
Mhm.
why they have the upper hand. And this kind of could have gone with like he could have picked any thief off of the street and they would have,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that's a
I
little
thought they gave
nitpick
him
here and
some
there.
knowledge. Like I
Yeah.
was okay with the added like Sully says like how do you remember all this stuff or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's
That's
I
true. They
I guess
with the map and stuff, they definitely added some things, but I just felt like I don't
I
know. It was
I
telegraphed better in the
yeah,
games.
I
sure.
kind of picked
Yep.
up what you were saying, Dustin, like but I actually felt like they gave Tom Holland a lot of that and a lot of the other characters none of that.
None of it?
Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like Chloe didn't seem to really figure out what was going on.
Mhm.
Sully was like, I've been searching for a tree, and then like, Tom Holland is like, oh yeah, I've just found like this image of the tree on a church. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, it was like Sully really couldn't like Google that image of a tree or like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, because like
Yeah.
that tree was so perfectly replicated from the diary on
Mhm.
that church, and I was like, he really couldn't have ever found that in
Google
like
image
games.
search.
Yeah.
No, that's not
I
no.
mean,
Mm.
I know it's obviously not perfect, but like I don't know, it just felt like a little like Tom Holland did actually have an edge in that, and like everybody else
Mhm.
was a little clueless
That's
for
true.
searching for the treasure, especially in Sully's case for like how long he said he'd been purportedly searching for this. He
Mhm.
just didn't seem to know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't
and
know. It
I guess
felt a
I'll
little silly that everybody wasn't more well rounded.
yeah, yep. I'll walk back my statement a little bit. Like they definitely let you know that he knew history because he was talking
Yeah.
about the map and then he'd piece together things. And yeah, I guess one of the things that I enjoy about the games is that everybody there who's like a part of the adventure, they've earned their place because they only got so far because they know how to figure all this stuff out and they have vast knowledge. Like Chloe just basically says like I was in a cave and I found it or something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's definitely it didn't give me the kind of, I guess, National Treasure does it a little bit too, where like he's just so smart, he remembers like how this
Yeah.
connects to that and whatever. They didn't do as much as that as I would have
Yeah.
expected them.
I get you.
But
Sure.
he definitely had, some chops on it. And this is supposed to be the super young guy who's just like fine with pickpocketing people to make extra money. So maybe that I'm thinking too much of the later 30s Drake, where this is the young 20s
Yeah.
getting into the game.
I do hear that though, because the sort of thing that separated Drake from all the other thieves he surrounds himself with, the kind of shady characters, is that he is proud of his ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
so that is kind of a thing that when you're parentless and stuff, you're in an orphanage or whatever, you kind of cling to this idea of self-importance that
Yeah.
your bloodline has. And so, it's a reason to be invested, to start digging in history, and then to like really attach to that. And so like some of his quests and some of his journeys, I always feel like has a little more than, well, I'm just trying to get this to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Mhm.
Sully's kind of like, I'm in for adventure. I want to get the things and make money. I want to sell this stuff. And Chloe's kind of the same way. I'm out here for adventure. Like I'm not at peace in my life or whatever. And I'm gonna let it all hang out here, and I'm gonna get rich doing it.
Yep.
And Nate is like, you know, I thought that this kind of reintroducing, like he kind of pushed his past, he'd taken off the ring, has forgotten about his brother. And
Mhm.
so kind of this getting back
Mm-hmm.
into that, like
Right.
understand what this like core purpose you had kind of growing up, um, revitalizing that. I think that's an important distinguishing element to his character. And I thought they did
Mhm.
that okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, let's see. So yeah, for me, if they would have just given Sully a mustache and a cigar for the whole movie, and then just if they're she's gonna be Nadine, just have her be Nadine and not take
Mhm.
over our bad guy. If they had
Mm-hmm.
just changed those two things, I would have. I mean, very good in my mind. The
Yeah.
um because the other thing with Antonio Banderas, we never got the payoff, is we had this really good moment between Tom Holland and him in the
Mhm.
museum or in the auction area,
Mm-hmm.
and like the threat that like I bought the threat that Antonio
Mm-hmm.
Banderas, and I like that little confrontation, and so it would have been
Right.
great to see that conclude.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
they were
It
never
would have been
really together
satisfying.
again.
Yep.
It was just sort of
Hmm.
like, oh, never really get like them together to see
Yeah.
what
Mhm.
them like meeting again would look like.
Yeah. You
Yep.
definitely needed that classic moment where the villain has the good guys and is kind of like, you've
Mm-hmm.
really been a pain in my side kind of
Right.
moment.
Exactly. Yep. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
I definitely think that the final act of it had potential, but they didn't realize what they were missing out on, and they
Mm-hmm.
just pushed it through to finish the movie that
Mm-hmm.
has never been finished for so long.
Yeah.
Because when they find those two ships and they pick them up or whatever, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good set piece. You've literally got like two flying sail ships to
Yeah.
fight on and jump between,
Right.
and then like the action cuts and like you've got to be able to give enough visual like identification for the people to understand where the people are
Yeah.
and how they relate to each other when they're fighting. And I felt like they didn't have a good through line for the fight sequence to where it almost seemed like they jumbled up the the series of events or something like that, because all of a sudden like
Who was on what ship?
yeah, like Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland accidentally like attack each other for a quick second and you don't realize that like that's what happened, and then all of a sudden like there's fewer bad guys, and all of a sudden there's more bad guys. I don't know. I felt like the editing on that final fight was just all
A
over
little
the
mixed
place
up,
and kind
yeah.
of ruined the premise of like, oh, sky pirates, do it.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I think they pulled off the airplane like set. Like that was pretty fun, even though there's definitely a fair amount of moments where you could see CGI unbelievable Tom Holland jumping and flopping around and stuff like that. Like got a little weird, but I was willing to give them that. That's fine. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just about to be a pretty good movie, and then
Mhm.
they just had a couple of things that were just like, yeah,
Some stumbles, yeah.
let's hopefully it did good enough to that they can keep going, because I'd like to see Sully and Nathan Drake get
Mhm.
to that point that you see him in the games, where
Mhm.
now they're seasoned at all this and stuff gets crazy and weird and
Mhm.
Sure.
interesting. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I guess I would kind of round out my commentary with two different kind of observations slash maybe hopes. One, I had a lot of fun in this movie. Despite some, I think, valid, concerns and complaints about things that happened, the overall effect was fun. I did enjoy
Mhm.
myself. Um, and I felt that Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland's chemistry gelled really perfectly by the very last scene. um, I wish they would have gotten there sooner, but they got there, and I really
Mhm.
enjoyed kind of like the final scene, and that sort of gave me like, yeah, I'd springboard this into another movie. So, I mean, I do hope that they would make another one
Mhm.
with these two guys, and hopefully they've figured out, whatever they're doing acting wise, um, so that they can kind of be like a team going forward. So on the whole, I liked it. I would love for another movie to be made with some like very thoughtful improvements to
Yeah.
it. Um the second thing I noticed was like, man, I am feeling my age in this movie because I felt like I was noticing some very like strange and also practical things about the movie that were very distracting. For one, every time somebody fell and like hit themselves, it was like, "Oh, that's a bone break." Like you broke your knee, you broke your elbow. Like, "Oh my god, he broke his back. He'd be in a cast." Like, how are these people like I'm like mid 30s, like I sleep wrong and my neck's twitched like 60
Yeah.
ways. You know what I mean? Like, how are you like falling out of a plane and landing on like a piece of cargo and you're like, "Get myself back up."
Mhm.
I don't know if maybe like my early 20s are too distant a memory to know how like, your body can bounce back, but man, poor Alan who was sitting next to me like probably like, "Oh my god, why is Andrea flinching all the time?" And I'm just like, "Oh my god, his poor patella. He hit his knee on that thing really hard." Like,
It's patella.
oh man, I was like, "Oh, that's a torn ACL
His
right there,
coccyx is
poor
gonna be
guy."
hurting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know if maybe it was just like the excellent sound that we were having that was just like amplifying everything,
It
every
made
like
that
hit.
added
But I was just
something,
like,
yeah.
ooh,
Uh,
like, oh man.
I
Also
mean,
like, oh no, go ahead.
well, I mean, I just like it's been we've been saying for a while. I know I've been on it about how I wish we could dial it down a notch, of the over the top. Like I think I blame Marvel, honestly, I blame
Right.
Marvel, but it's just like humans can only do so much. And I know
The
that like
human body can only
our
take so much, man.
yeah, our suspension of disbelief keeps having to be elevated for
Yep.
normal people, and it's a little frustrating,
Yeah.
whether it be Black Widow in one thing or John Wick in another. Like it's getting a little bit insane, and I
Yep.
just wish we could take it, because it's more you don't it's more believable. It's just one of those things where you don't always have to have the bigger explosion for the
Mhm.
explosion to have more impact. It
Right.
matters
Just has
what
to be the
got
right moment.
exploded and what's the yeah, right. So yeah, I would be fine with them dialing down a notch. But I didn't think of anything of it in here because I'm so dead into that now that
You're so
like,
dead inside.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I
when
get it. It was just it was
a
for
hundred
me, it
pound
was just
woman takes down an army of dudes and then jumps out of a plane and rolls on the ground and like just it's just
right.
nuts. It's just nuts.
So,
So,
John,
Yeah.
you
but I hear
want
you.
an action movie where by the end they've just broken every bone and they're just in a full body cast
Yeah.
fighting everybody.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, now that I say that,
Because
I would see
because
that.
that's how I felt in this movie. I was like, everybody should be in a body cast right now. I don't care who you are. If you're Tom Holland or you're Tati Gabrielle, like you're in a body cast.
Hmm.
So yeah, so
Yep.
I was just sort of like noticing that. I also noticed like the scene in the club where Tom Holland and sorry, I keep saying Tom Holland, but like Nathan
Or
Drake and
Chloe.
Chloe Frazier
Yeah.
are trying to blend in and they like shed, their backpacks and whatnot. And they're dancing and whatever. And then they like go behind the bar. I'm like, don't leave your backpack. That has like all your
Yeah.
stuff in it.
Your
Like,
passport.
I was like,
You gotta
oh
Yep.
wear that
no.
around your waist and your fanny pack thing.
Where's your crucifixes and your
Yeah.
keys and what? And then they just like leave them. But then like somehow later Chloe had her backpack and was like, did they go back for the backpacks? Did nobody steal those
Oh,
backpacks? You
I
left
didn't
those
even notice
backpacks
that.
in the middle
You
of a
gotta watch it
crowded club
again.
floor.
Dang it.
Like,
Gotta watch it again.
so
Uh,
yeah, so like that, or like the time where Mark Wahlberg was like, yeah, I mean, this guy on the app said he would go feed my cat, but I've been waiting to hear from him. I was like, God, is his cat okay? I would love to know if his cat is okay. So I was just like, man, I'm really like feeling my age if I can't just enjoy the magic of the movies without
Yeah.
actually wondering if Mark Wahlberg's cat was fed or if somebody went back for their backpack and nobody stole it. Thank goodness.
mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a long day at the embassy. Yeah.
But do you guys
All
have any
right.
like kind of final thoughts, like anything to add or, push back on? I know I said some, other things about, issues I had with the movie, but any negatives or positives?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess overall I'm excited that hopefully this actually does become a franchise because I
Mhm.
think they could go a lot of places with it. Like you could endlessly chase treasure or whatever and come up with fun stories. I just think that
For sure.
yeah, I hope that they make it a little bit more smart and
Mhm.
they make use of their set pieces. Like I think they definitely were trying to have interesting set pieces for some of the stuff.
Mhm.
The cargo plane was definitely pulled from number 3, but the pirate ship one was totally new, and I was on board with it
Hey,
until
on
it
board.
wasn't. Yeah,
Great pun.
if only I had tried to do that one. But yeah, I'm excited for where it could go because I did enjoy this movie,
Mhm.
even though I griped on a lot of things. And I was fine with it being just different enough from the games where it's. But that's also me. Is that I don't I don't get caught up on those kind of details as much as I used to, especially when it's like I know that this is a completely different medium. Like just make a movie that's a good movie. Don't try and do whatever to make sure that you only pull in the people who know the franchise.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For me, it was both different and similar enough. Like I think it was different in ways that were good that they're not retelling what happened in the game. So
mhm.
it clearly
Mhm.
is a separate thing.
Right.
It's not like fitting into the canon somehow. It's a different thing. And so um you have more room to play then. But the important thing is that to me it still felt like Uncharted.
Mhm.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
still felt like it had enough of the hallmarks of what that is
Mhm.
to 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 work. It to me didn't feel like Uncharted in name only. because that's
Yeah.
where I have the problem. Like you can
Sure.
change stuff, but if when you're like just gonna take a property and you're counting on a chunk of the audience coming just because they know the name, and then you just like take a dump all over that, and it's really has nothing to do with that. That's where I have a problem, and I felt like this felt enough like Uncharted,
Mhm.
Sure.
and so I was pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
I'm hopeful for a second one.
Mhm.
I think I think that one of you had said that it was doing well, and I looked that up, and yeah, I think it's in the top 5 for um like the same time period,
Sure.
opening weekends or whatever. So
Sure.
it's doing well, and reviewing well by audiences, and and then I don't know if you guys heard when we left, people in front of us got up and they said, "Well, gotta go get a PS5 now."
Yeah.
And
Oh.
and then they said like, "Well, we gotta." And firstly in my head, I'm like, "Well, good luck." And then I thought they
True.
they were talking about like systems they had before, like, "Oh, we have PS4s. Oh, someone else has that," and like they sold it or something. And so like, that's what Sony wants to do here. That's why they bought
True.
Destiny. They were
Mhm.
promising making that into a movie franchise. They're
Mhm.
doing their
Oh.
HBO Last of Us show.
Right.
They're doing something Ghost of the Tsushima, which I'm most worried about. But
Oh.
they're doing all these things, and my little one experience there, if someone standing up saying they want a PS5 now,
Mhm.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that because I was gonna say, as my absolute final closing thought, like this movie did make me. I'd already wanted to play the Uncharted games, and this movie like, pushed me further along the like, yeah, like I'm actually gonna actively seek that out.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Cool.
I started playing number 4 again, and I was like, "Yeah, this
right.
game is great. It makes me want to basically go through the trilogy again." So,
Yeah.
if I hadn't played them before, I probably would have gone and bought them. So
Mhm.
Yep.
they know what
Yep.
they're doing.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Absolutely.
right. All right. Well, I think that'll about do it. That's Uncharted, the movie. Our thoughts here. It's been Popcast on the Rocks, episode 95. We got to plan something for episode 100. I mean, before you know
Oh
it,
my
it's
God.
be here. I don't know. Going on, we're past like the 2-year mark or whatever of this show. I mean, we got lots, lots of
Sky's the
stuff,
limit.
lots to look forward to as well. So, anyways, thank you, Dustin, for jumping on for this episode. Appreciate
Yeah.
you being back.
Thank you very
And
much.
yeah, you bet. Um, Killing the Flower. We also want to thank them. That's a band. They did our theme song. You can check them out on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. And otherwise, we'll be back. We'll be back next week, probably talking Raised by Wolves, I'm guessing, or something. So gotta keep going on that, and that'll do it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Have a good one. Cheers.